A young cub suffered a fatal wound. The pack left him to die, but humans don't do that. A small creature had caught his eye, wounded and weak. Hunger and instinct drove him forward. Eli was young, faster than most cubs his age, and eager to prove himself to the pack. He reached the small animal and lunged. His claws caught it, but the creature thrashed hard, and in an instant a shadow fell over him. Eli felt a sharp pain along his side. He yelped and stumbled, his leg giving way beneath him. The rival predator, larger and stronger than he was, had attacked without warning. Eli tried to fight back, but he was no match for the creature. The pack's voices echoed from a distance. They were calling to each other, running across the jagged plains. They had seen the fight, but none of them stopped. Eli's heart sank. He looked back at them, but they did not return. His brother, who had been closest to him, paused for a moment, eyes wide, and then turned away. The pack left him to die. Eli tried to get up, but the pain was too great. Blood ran down his side, warm and sticky. He lay on the rocks, panting, ears pressed flat to his head. He had never felt such fear, not for himself, but for the thought of being alone. Alone in the cold, red world where nothing seemed safe. Time passed slowly. Eli tried to drag himself forward, but the sharp stones cut his paws. Every movement caused a sting through his body, and he whimpered softly. The sky above shifted from bright red to dark orange as the sun sank. The shadows grew longer, and the cold began to bite. He thought of his mother. She had been strong and kind, teaching him to hunt, to run, to fight. But she had not been there for this. She had left him with the pack, trusting them to protect him. And now they had left. Eli's amber eyes filled with tears he could not shed. The night crept over the plains. The wind howled like a living thing, and distant cries of other predators echoed across the rocks. Eli could hear them, sharp and hungry, sniffing the air. He tried to stay still, hoping they would pass, hoping that somehow he could survive until morning. He remembered the stories the elders told, the tales of young cubs who became strong by surviving danger, who learned the ways of the world through pain and hardship. Eli had thought he was ready, thought he could face anything. But now, lying in the cold, bleeding and weak, he wondered if he had ever been ready at all. Above him, the stars began to appear, small points of light against the dark sky. Eli had never looked at them closely before. They seemed so far away, untouchable, but somehow comforting. He thought that maybe, somewhere out there, someone could see him, someone might care. Far above the planet, a human scout ship hovered silently. It was small, sleek, and designed for observing wildlife, but it carried more than cameras and sensors. It had people aboard who watched carefully, trained to notice life where others would not. Lieutenant Ava Collins sat at the console, her eyes scanning the screens. She was young but sharp and determined. Beside her, medic Ryan Holt adjusted a monitor, keeping an eye on the readings. "Did you see that?" Ava asked, pointing to a spike on the screen. Ryan leaned closer. "It's a life form, but it's not human, and it's injured." He frowned. The signals were irregular, strange. He had seen animals on other worlds, but this was different. The heartbeat was weak, irregular, almost fading. Ava didn't hesitate. "We have to check it. It might not survive long." She typed in coordinates and guided the small scout ship closer to the planet. The engines hummed softly as the ship moved, gliding over the jagged terrain below. Back on the ground, Eli tried to crawl. The pain in his side made it almost impossible. He could barely lift his head, but he looked around. The red rocks stretched for miles. There was no shelter, no protection. He whimpered, a soft, broken sound that echoed across the plains. Suddenly, a shadow fell over him. Eli flinched, ready to fight, but what appeared was not a predator. A sleek ship had landed nearby, kicking up dust and small rocks. From the ship, humans stepped out. Ava knelt first, her hands extended slowly, speaking in a calm voice. Eli didn't understand her words, but he could feel something in her tone: safety, kindness. He tried to back away, but his strength failed him. His paws dug into the dirt and he collapsed again. Ava moved closer carefully so as not to scare him. Ryan followed, carrying a small kit filled with tools and medicines that Eli had never seen. "Easy, little one," Ava whispered. "We're here to help." Eli's instincts screamed at him to fight, to bite, to run, but the pain was too much. He could barely lift his head. He felt something cold against his side, a needle, sharp and quick. Ryan injected the serum, a strange warmth spreading through his wound. The pain lessened slightly, enough for him to breathe easier. Eli blinked slowly, trying to understand. He had never felt such care from anyone. The pack had left him, expecting him to die, but these humans, they stayed. They didn't turn away. They didn't judge him for being weak. Ava gently touched his head, stroking the fur near his ear. "You're safe now," she said softly. "We won't leave you." Eli whimpered, leaning slightly against her hand. He didn't understand the words, but the feeling of safety was clear. Hours passed as the humans worked. They cleaned the wound, wrapped it carefully, and gave him food and water. Eli had never eaten from another creature's hand before, but hunger won. He nibbled at the food they offered, small bites, tasting the warmth and care with each mouthful. Night deepened and the cold grew sharper. Eli huddled near the humans, feeling the warmth of their bodies and the strange sound of their breathing. It was unlike anything he had experienced. The pack had taught him to be alone, to fear others, to survive by himself. But here, warmth and care surrounded him. For the first time, he closed his eyes without fear. The humans stayed near, keeping watch through the night. Occasionally, Eli would stir, trembling from the pain or the cold, and Ava would speak softly, reassuring him. Ryan monitored his vitals, ensuring that the serum worked and that his strength slowly returned. Eli's mind wandered as he lay there. He thought of the pack, of their eyes turning away when he needed them most. He thought of his mother, of the lessons she had taught him. And he thought of these humans, strangers who had saved him without hesitation. By the time dawn broke, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink, Eli had learned something new. Strength was not only about hunting, running, or fighting. It was also about trust, care, and protection. He had always thought the pack's way, the survival of the strongest, was the only truth. But now he saw another way, a path where life was valued and no one was abandoned. The humans prepared to move him into the transport pod, ready to take him to a safer place. Eli hesitated, unsure of what awaited him beyond the plains he had always known, but something in their eyes told him he could trust them. Slowly, carefully, he allowed himself to be lifted, his paws brushing against the human's hands. As the ship lifted off, Eli looked down at Torger V, at the rocks and the plains, at the place where the pack had left him to die. His amber eyes reflected the rising sun. He didn't know what the future held, but for the first time he felt hope. The humans had shown him something the pack never could, that life was precious, and that even the weakest deserved protection. Eli had survived the night, and now, for the first time, he understood that survival could also mean being saved, not just fighting alone. Above the planet, the ship sailed quietly through the thin atmosphere. Eli lay on the soft surface of the pod, ears twitching at every sound, eyes wide with curiosity. Ava sat beside him, speaking softly, and Ryan adjusted the pod's systems. The young cub had never felt so calm, so cared for, so alive. The red plains of Torger V disappeared below them, and Eli began to realize something important. The universe was bigger than his pack, bigger than the dangers he had known. And somewhere among the stars, humans were ready to show him that life was never truly lost when someone cared enough to save it. For Eli, the night of fear, pain, and abandonment was over. The dawn of a new life had begun, and he was not alone anymore. Eli woke to a soft light shining down on him. The humans had moved him to a small room in the ship, a place filled with warmth and soft surfaces. The pain in his side had lessened. He stretched slowly, feeling his muscles ache but also feel stronger than the night before. The humans were already nearby, watching him with gentle smiles. Ava knelt beside him first. "Good morning, Eli," she said softly. Her voice had a calm rhythm, and even though he did not understand the words, the tone was kind. Eli tilted his head, sniffing the air. There was food, water, and the quiet hum of the ship's engines. The humans moved carefully, not forcing him to do anything, just being present. Ryan brought a small dish of soft meat. Eli hesitated. He had learned from the pack to eat quickly to fight for his food, but here the humans offered it with patience. Slowly, he approached, sniffing and then taking small bites. The taste was different but good, nourishing. His stomach, empty since the night of his injury, rumbled with relief. As he ate, Ava gently examined his wound. The serum had done its work, but the cut was still tender. She touched it lightly, her fingers careful, checking for swelling or signs of infection. Eli flinched at first, but she did not pull back. She waited, silent and steady, and soon Eli stopped resisting. He realized that she would not hurt him, that her hands were safe. The day passed slowly. Eli explored the small room, his paws brushing against soft mats and strange equipment he had never seen. Screens flickered with lights, and the air smelled faintly of metal and warmth. He had never been inside a place like this. Outside the ship, the red plains of Torger V stretched endlessly, but here, the world was calm and safe. Ava and Ryan spent time with him, speaking softly and offering small gestures of comfort. Eli began to respond. He would move closer when Ava reached out, nuzzle her hand, and even rest his head against her knee. Trust was growing slowly, like a tiny flame in his chest. During the afternoon, Ava showed Eli a small mirror. The cub looked at his reflection. His fur was matted and dirty, and his eyes still held fear, but they also shone with curiosity. He sniffed and pawed at his reflection, unsure what to make of it. Ryan laughed quietly. "He's trying to understand himself," he said. Ava nodded. "Yes, he has been alone too long. Now he is learning something new." By the second day, Eli was moving more confidently. He tested his legs, leaping short distances across the room, feeling the strength return. The humans clapped softly each time he landed without stumbling. He began to realize that these creatures, humans, were different from anything he had known. They did not demand obedience. They did not judge him for being small or weak. They only offered care and guidance. At one point, Ava brought a small device that projected images onto the wall. Pictures of forests, mountains, and rivers appeared. Eli watched, ears twitching, as the humans pointed to different animals, explaining in their language what they were. He did not understand the words, but he could feel the meaning. They were showing him the world beyond Torger V, teaching him that there was more to life than survival on the harsh plains. Eli's thoughts drifted back to his pack. He remembered the night they left him, the cold wind against his side, the sharp pain of betrayal. The memory made him shiver. But then he looked at Ava and Ryan, at the warmth in their eyes and the careful way they handled him, and he felt something new: hope. Maybe life could be different. Maybe he did not have to fear being left behind. As the humans worked, Eli began to notice other things. The way they moved together, coordinating without words at times. The way they checked on each other, sharing small smiles or gestures of reassurance. He remembered the pack and how they had fought among themselves, how weakness meant being left behind or punished. Humans were different. Strength, he realized slowly, was not only about teeth or claws. It was about care, courage, and the choice to protect. That evening, Ava and Ryan opened a small window to let in the night air. Eli sniffed, ears perking up. The smell of the red plains came through, but it was mixed with the clean, warm scent of the ship. He could hear the distant cries of creatures from outside. Normally, those sounds would make him tense, ready to fight or flee. But now he felt calm. He could hear danger, but he also felt safety. Ava knelt near him and whispered, "You are safe now, Eli. We will protect you." Eli tilted his head, feeling the truth in her tone. He did not understand the exact meaning of the words, but he felt the care behind them. He pressed his body against her leg, a small gesture of trust he had never shown before. The night passed quietly. Eli slept more than he had in days, curled on soft mats instead of the cold, jagged rocks. When he woke, the humans were already preparing for the day. They brought food, water, and small toys that moved or made sounds. Eli pawed at them, testing his reflexes, feeling the joy of play for the first time since he had been injured. Over the next few days, Eli's strength grew. He learned to jump higher, run faster, and explore the ship without fear. He discovered small compartments filled with warmth, soft surfaces, and comforting smells. The humans watched, guiding him, praising him, but never forcing him. He realized that they did not push him because they wanted obedience. They pushed him because they wanted him to learn, to grow, to survive. One morning, Ava took Eli to a small viewing window. Below, the plains of Torger V stretched endlessly, red and jagged. Eli's paws pressed against the glass as he looked down. Memories of the pack surfaced, memories of being left behind, of fighting alone. But he also remembered the humans who had saved him, who had cared for him when no one else would. Ryan knelt beside him. "You see, Eli," he said softly, "there's more to the world than just survival. There's care, kindness, and protection. You are learning something important." Eli tilted his head. He did not understand the words, but he felt the meaning. Humans valued life. They protected the weak. They did not abandon. Eli's curiosity grew. He began to explore more, observing the humans' routines. He watched how they shared food, how they worked together without conflict, how they tended to the weak and injured. He compared it to his pack, who often fought among themselves, leaving the weakest to die. The contrast was clear. Humans were strange but powerful in a way he had never known. One afternoon, a small accident occurred. Eli misjudged a jump and stumbled, hitting a wall softly. His paw was sore but not seriously injured. He whimpered, and the humans immediately came to him, checking his paw, speaking in gentle tones. He realized that they acted quickly, caring for him without frustration or anger. He had never experienced such patience. That night, Eli sat near the humans, watching the stars through the ship's window. He had seen the stars from Torger V, but now they were clearer, brighter, and closer. Ava sat beside him, speaking softly about worlds beyond his own. Ryan monitored the systems, ensuring the ship remained safe. Eli pressed his head against Ava's shoulder, feeling warmth and safety. For the first time, he did not feel fear. For the first time, he did not feel alone. The humans had shown him a new way to live, one where trust and care mattered as much as strength. Eli thought of the pack and shivered. They had left him to die. Humans had saved him instead. Over the next week, Eli's bond with the humans grew stronger. He learned to respond to their gestures, to trust their guidance, and even to play with them. He discovered joy in their presence, a feeling he had never known. The ship became his new home, the humans his family. Ava noticed the change. "He's learning fast," she said to Ryan. "He understands more than we think," Ryan nodded. "He's a smart cub, he just needed care to see it." Eli, lying on a soft mat nearby, blinked slowly, listening to their voices. He understood more than they realized. He had learned that life could be different, that strength could be shown through protection and care. Eli's nights were no longer filled with fear. He slept calmly, ears twitching only at safe sounds, dreaming of new adventures and new lessons. The ship moved through the sky, carrying him away from the dangerous plains of Torger V and toward something unknown. But he did not fear the unknown anymore. He had humans to guide him, to protect him, and to teach him. As days passed, Eli began to test his limits. He ran, jumped, and explored the ship, learning every corner and every sound. He discovered that humans valued patience, persistence, and trust. They did not rush. They did not push unfairly. They nurtured, guided, and cared. Eli felt stronger, braver, and wiser with each passing day. He remembered the pack less often, and when he did, it was with understanding. He knew they had their ways, their rules, but humans were different. Humans had shown him something his pack never could. That life was worth protecting, that no one should be left behind, and that kindness could be a form of strength greater than claws or teeth. Eli pressed himself against Ava one evening, feeling safe and warm. He had learned to trust, to feel hope, and to believe in something beyond survival. The ship hummed softly, carrying him through the sky, and for the first time in his young life, he felt truly alive. Eli woke to the soft hum of the ship's engines. He stretched his legs, feeling the strength return to his muscles. The wound on his side had healed more, leaving only a faint scar. He touched it with his paw, remembering the sharp pain from the night he had been abandoned. Even now, the memory made him shiver, but the humans were beside him, calm and reassuring. Ava was already awake, sitting near the small viewing window. She looked down at the red plains of Torger V, still visible in the distance. Eli padded quietly over to her, curious. She smiled and held out a hand. "Good morning, Eli," she said softly. Her voice had become familiar, soothing, and full of care. Eli nuzzled her hand, a small gesture of trust. Ryan entered with a tray of food, and Eli's ears perked up. He ran to it eagerly, nibbling on the soft meat and drinking water. The taste was simple, yet it filled him with energy. The humans watched, pleased with his progress, but they did not rush him. Every gesture was calm and patient, teaching Eli that life did not always have to be a struggle. After breakfast, Ava opened a small door to another compartment of the ship. Eli hesitated at first. The space was large, filled with strange equipment, soft mats, and windows that looked out at the stars. But the humans encouraged him gently, moving slowly and speaking in soft tones. Eli stepped inside, exploring carefully. He sniffed every corner, testing the surfaces with his paws. The space was safe, warm, and filled with new scents. Ava knelt on the floor. "Come on, Eli, you can explore. We are right here," she said. Eli looked at her, then at Ryan, and slowly moved forward. He felt cautious, yet excited. For the first time in his life, he could move without fear of attack. The humans did not demand obedience. They did not threaten him. They only offered guidance. As Eli explored, he noticed small devices projecting moving images. Pictures of forests, rivers, and mountains appeared, along with animals moving in their natural habitats. Eli's ears twitched, and he padded closer. These creatures reminded him of Torger V, but they were different. They moved freely, unafraid, living in balance with their environment. Eli tilted his head, trying to understand. Ava and Ryan watched him closely. "He's learning fast," Ryan whispered. "He notices everything." Ava nodded. "Yes, he sees more than we think. The way he observes, it's like he is trying to understand us too." Eli turned to them, eyes bright, as if acknowledging their words. Over the next few days, Eli's curiosity grew. He began to follow Ava and Ryan from room to room, watching how they worked together. He saw them prepare meals, repair equipment, and communicate with each other. He noticed small gestures, like a hand on a shoulder or a smile when something was done well. Eli remembered his pack, how they often fought among themselves, how weakness was punished. Humans were different. Their strength came from care, not force. One day, Ava brought Eli to a small observation deck. The floor was smooth and warm, and large windows showed the vastness of space. Stars shone brightly, and distant planets moved slowly in the darkness. Eli pressed his paws against the glass, watching the endless sky. It was different from Torger V, which had been harsh and limited. Here, the universe seemed alive and full of possibilities. Ryan sat beside him. "Look at that, Eli," he said. "There's more to life than what we see on one planet. Everything is connected. Everything matters." Eli tilted his head, listening to the tone of Ryan's voice. He did not understand all the words, but the meaning was clear. humans valued life. They cared for everything, even creatures unlike themselves. Eli began to test his new strength. He ran across the smooth floor, leaping over mats and small obstacles. The humans clapped softly, encouraging him. For the first time, he felt pride in his abilities. He realized that strength was not just survival, but learning, growing, and using his abilities wisely. One afternoon, a small alarm sounded on the ship. Eli's ears perked up, and he crouched instinctively. Ava and Ryan moved quickly but calmly. Eli watched them closely, noticing how they communicated silently, with gestures and glances. They worked together efficiently, protecting each other and the ship. Eli understood that humans were capable of great action, but they acted with purpose and care. The alarm was false, a small meteor passing close by, but Eli had learned something important. Humans could face danger without panic. They did not act out of fear or instinct alone. Their strength came from thought, planning, and the choice to protect life. Eli's respect for them grew. As days passed, Eli began to engage with the humans in new ways. He nudged objects with his paws, learning cause and effect. He tested the sounds of the ship, the movements of equipment, and the patterns of the stars outside. The humans encouraged him, explaining patiently and guiding him without pressure. Eli realized that learning was part of survival, and the humans had much to teach him. One evening, Ava brought a small box filled with soft toys and puzzles. Eli sniffed and pawed at the objects, testing his intelligence and dexterity. He nudged a puzzle, pushing pieces into place. Ryan clapped softly. "Good job, Eli, you're smart." Eli blinked, surprised. No one had ever praised him before. The pack had demanded obedience, not intelligence. Humans valued effort, learning, and curiosity. Eli's trust grew stronger each day. He slept near the humans, ate with them, and followed them around the ship. He learned to respond to their gestures, to understand their moods, and even to play in ways that pleased them. For the first time in his life, Eli felt safe and valued. One morning, Ava brought him to the ship's outer deck. Eli had never been this high above the planet. The air was cool and the wind ruffled his fur. Below, Torger V stretched endlessly, red and jagged. Eli remembered the night he had been abandoned, the cold wind and the sharp pain. But now he felt strong and alive. He had survived. He had humans to guide him. Ava knelt beside him. "Do you see, Eli? Life can be more than fear and pain. You can grow, learn, and explore. There is a whole universe out there." Eli pressed his head against her hand, understanding in a way he could not express. The humans had shown him a new path, one that did not require constant struggle against betrayal and danger. Ryan joined them, carrying a small device that projected images of other creatures and worlds. Eli watched, ears twitching, as animals moved across forests, oceans, and plains. He saw creatures like himself, young and learning, surviving in their environments. But he also noticed the humans' role in caring for them, protecting them, studying them without harm. Eli realized that humans had a responsibility, not out of fear, but out of respect and care. As the ship moved farther from Torger V, Eli's thoughts wandered. He thought of his pack, of the ways they had left the weak to die. He felt sadness, but also clarity. He understood that he had a choice now. He could stay tied to the ways of the pack, or he could follow the humans' example. He chose the humans. They had shown him strength through kindness, protection, and care. Over the next week, Eli continued to learn. He tested his reflexes, improved his speed, and observed the humans' actions carefully. He noticed small details, the way they cleaned, repaired, and shared tasks. He began to understand that their power was not only in their bodies but in their minds and hearts. One evening, Ava sat with Eli on the observation deck. "You're learning quickly," she said. "Do you see now why we protect each other and the weak? Strength is not just fighting. Strength is caring." Eli pressed his head to her shoulder, feeling the truth in her words. The warmth of her body and the calm of the ship reassured him. He had survived pain, fear, and abandonment. Now he was learning something greater. The ship continued through the stars, and Eli grew more confident. He ran across the decks, explored the compartments, and even began to play with the humans. The bond between them deepened, built on trust, care, and understanding. Eli realized that he could rely on them. He could trust them. For the first time, he did not feel the constant fear of being left behind. At night, Eli slept near the humans, dreaming not of fear or hunger, but of exploration, learning, and strength through care. He had survived the plains of Torger V, survived abandonment, and now he had humans to guide him. The universe seemed vast and full of promise, and Eli knew he was ready to face it with their help. Eli had learned a valuable lesson. Life was more than survival. It was about trust, care, and the courage to protect others. Humans had shown him that strength was not only teeth and claws but also kindness, patience, and love. The cub who had been left to die was no longer weak. He was alive, learning and growing under the guidance of beings who valued life above all else. As the ship sailed through the endless stars, Eli pressed his nose to the window, watching distant planets and shimmering lights. He felt a new sense of purpose. The humans had given him a gift beyond survival, hope. And hope, he realized, was stronger than fear, sharper than claws, and more enduring than any pack loyalty. For Eli, the world had changed. He had learned that humans were not just strangers. They were protectors, teachers, and friends. And under their guidance, he would grow stronger, wiser, and more capable than he had ever imagined. The night of fear and abandonment was behind him. A new life of trust, learning, and exploration had begun. Eli sensed danger before the humans spoke. The ship changed its sound. The soft hum became sharper, faster. Lights shifted from calm white to a dull, warning glow. Eli's ears flattened and his body tensed. Long ago, this feeling meant attack or death. His instincts told him to run or hide. Ava stood quickly and checked the control panel. Her face stayed calm, but her eyes were focused. Ryan moved beside her, reading data on a screen. They did not panic. They did not shout. They worked together, smooth and steady. "There's a distress signal," Ryan said. "Not human, small life signs, very weak." Eli lifted his head. The words meant little, but the tone meant everything. Weak, hurt, alone. His chest tightened. He remembered the cold rocks, the pain. The moment the pack turned away, Ava glanced at Eli. "Another cub," she said softly, "or something like him." The ship shifted direction. Eli felt it in his bones. They were going toward danger. The planet below was smaller than Torger V, covered in gray forests and deep shadows. Storm clouds moved fast across the sky. The ship descended carefully, cutting through wind and rain. Eli braced himself, claws gripping the floor. The ship landed in a clearing filled with broken trees and wet ground. The air outside was cold and heavy. Eli followed Ava and Ryan down the ramp, staying close. His senses were sharp. He could smell fear, blood, and something familiar. They found the injured creature near a fallen tree. It was young, smaller than Eli, with dark fur and wide eyes. One leg was badly hurt. It tried to crawl away when it saw them, but it could not move far. Eli froze. The cub's fear hit him hard. It was the same fear he had felt, the same pain, the same loneliness. Ava knelt slowly, hands open. "Easy," she said. "We won't hurt you." The injured cub growled weakly, trying to look strong, but its body shook. Eli stepped forward without thinking. Ava noticed. "Eli, wait." But Eli did not stop. He moved slowly, head low, showing he was not a threat. The injured cub watched him, confused. Eli stopped a short distance away and lay down on the ground. He made himself small. The cub stared. It sniffed the air. Eli's scent was different from the humans, but not threatening. Slowly, the cub stopped growling. Ryan whispered, "He's calming it." Ava nodded. "He remembers." Ryan treated the wound carefully while Ava watched the area. The storm grew louder, thunder rolling across the sky. Rain soaked the ground. The cub whimpered in pain and Eli flinched each time. When Ryan finished, they lifted the cub onto a small stretcher. Eli stayed close, walking beside it back to the ship. Inside, the cub was placed in a warm pod. It trembled, eyes darting around. Eli sat nearby, silent and still. He remembered how scared he had been when he first woke on the ship. He remembered how Ava's calm voice had helped him, so he stayed. The cub slowly relaxed, its breathing steadied, it slept. Ava watched Eli. "You did good," she said softly. Eli did not understand the words, but he felt the meaning. Something inside him shifted. For the first time, he was not the one being saved. He was helping someone else survive. The storm outside grew worse. The ship shook as strong winds hit it. Systems flickered. Ryan moved fast, checking power levels. "We can't take off yet," he said. "Storm's too strong." Ava nodded. "Then we wait." Hours passed. The ship rocked. Thunder boomed. Eli stayed near the injured cub, watching, listening. Fear tried to rise in him, old fear, but he pushed it down. The humans were calm. He trusted them. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed outside. The ship lurched hard to one side. Eli was thrown against the wall. "Tree hit the hull," Ryan said. "Minor damage, but we need to fix it." Ava grabbed tools and headed for the outer hatch. "I'll handle it." Eli stood and followed her. She turned. "No, Eli, stay here." Eli hesitated. His instincts screamed danger, but another feeling rose stronger. He did not want her to go alone. He remembered the pack leaving. Humans did not do that. He stepped forward again. Ava looked at him, then nodded. "All right, stay close." They moved outside into the storm. Rain soaked Eli's fur instantly. Wind pushed against him hard. He lowered his body and followed Ava, staying low and steady. A large branch had damaged part of the ship's outer panel. Ava worked quickly, hands steady despite the rain. Eli stood nearby, watching the dark forest. His ears picked up movement. He growled low. Ava paused. "What is it?" Shapes moved between the trees, predators, drawn by noise and smell. Eli stepped forward, standing between Ava and the forest. His body shook, but he did not move back. He bared his teeth and growled louder. The shapes stopped. They were larger than him, more than one. Eli remembered running, remembered fear, but he also remembered warmth, care, and safety. He remembered that strength could protect. He held his ground. The predators watched for a long moment. Then one turned away. Another followed. Soon the forest was still again. Ava finished the repair and placed a hand on Eli's shoulder. "You protected me," she said quietly. Eli breathed out slowly. His legs trembled, but he stayed standing. They returned inside the ship. The storm slowly passed. The ship lifted off once the skies cleared. Inside, the injured cub woke. It looked at Eli and made a soft sound, unsure but calmer. Eli lay beside it, sharing warmth. Days passed as the cub healed. It watched Eli closely, copying him. When Ava offered food, the cub hesitated until Eli ate first. When Ryan checked the wound, the cub stayed still because Eli stayed still. Eli understood then. He had become something new, not pack leader. Not abandoned cub, protector. Ava noticed the change. "He's teaching it," she said to Ryan. Ryan smiled. "Yeah, he learned from us." Eli spent time with the cub, showing it how to move safely in the ship, how to rest, how to trust. He did not use force. He used patience. One night, Eli sat by the window, stars stretching endlessly before him. The cub slept nearby. Ava sat on the floor next to him. "You know," she said softly, "humans believe that saving one life matters, even if it's hard, even if it's dangerous." Eli leaned against her. She continued, "And sometimes the ones we save learn to do the same." Eli did not understand the words, but he felt their truth. He looked at the cub, safe and alive, and felt a deep sense of rightness. He had been left to die once. Now, because of humans, he would never let that happen again. The ship moved forward through space, carrying life that would have been lost. Eli watched the stars and felt strong, not because of claws or teeth, but because he knew how to care. The cub slept peacefully. and Eli stayed awake, guarding the future. The ship moved quietly through space. Eli sat near the viewing window, ears twitching as the stars passed by. Beside him, the young cub, now stronger and calmer, lay curled on a soft mat. Eli had taken it upon himself to watch over the cub just as humans had once watched over him. It felt natural, right? He had learned from the humans that protecting life was not weakness, it was strength. Ava entered the room, carrying a small tray of food. "Breakfast," she said softly, placing it down. Eli sniffed the dishes, then nudged the cub forward. The cub hesitated, but when Eli started eating first, it followed. Watching him, it learned patience, trust, and courage. Eli felt proud in a quiet, new way. Pride was different now. It was not about power, but about care. After breakfast, Ryan appeared with a small device projecting moving images of other worlds. Eli watched closely. Forests, oceans, mountains, all teeming with life. The cub watched him, copying every movement and posture. Eli realized that humans had given him more than food, safety, and warmth. They had given him knowledge, understanding, and the chance to see the universe in a way he never could on Torger V. Eli stood and padded around the room, exploring and observing. The humans encouraged him, speaking softly, letting him move freely. He had grown stronger, faster, and smarter. He could leap high, sprint across the floor, and balance on the edge of surfaces without fear. But the most important thing he had learned was the value of life. Every being mattered. Every choice mattered. Days passed. Eli spent time with the cub, teaching it small lessons. How to move safely, how to rest, and how to trust. At first, the cub was hesitant, confused, and scared. But with Eli guiding it, the cub began to explore, test its strength, and even play. Eli would sometimes lie down beside it, letting it climb over him, trusting him. The humans watched silently, proud. They knew that Eli had grown into more than just a survivor. He had become a protector. One evening, the ship entered the orbit of a new planet. The surface glowed with soft blue light, oceans stretching far, and green forests shining beneath. Eli pressed his paws against the glass. He had seen Torger V and the gray planet with the injured cub, but this world seemed different. Safe, full of possibilities. The cub climbed beside him, nudging his side. Eli looked down at it, amber eyes meeting dark ones. They did not need words, the bond was clear. Life would continue. Life would thrive. Ava knelt beside them. "This is where we will stay for a while," she said. "It is safe. There is plenty of food, water, and space to explore. You will learn more here than ever before." Eli felt a warmth inside him he had never known. Humans had saved him once. Now they were saving another life, showing him that protection and care could shape the future. The cub stepped closer to Eli, sniffing him. Eli lowered his head, letting the cub nuzzle him. For the first time, he realized something deep inside. He had become the kind of being who could protect, teach, and care. He had once been weak and abandoned. Now he had the chance to give life the same respect that humans had given him. The next days were full of exploration. Eli led the cub through the ship, showing it safe places to rest, places to hide, and spots with the best view of the stars. The cub watched him closely, learning quickly. Eli noticed every small movement and every hesitation, guiding the cub with patience. It was tiring work, but he did not mind. Protecting another life had become a purpose, a responsibility he cherished. Ava and Ryan observed silently, speaking softly between themselves. "He is teaching it well," Ryan said. "He understands humans better than we thought." Ava nodded. "He has learned the value of life. That is what makes him strong. Not teeth, not claws, but care." Eli remembered Torger V. He remembered the red rocks, the pack leaving him behind, the pain and fear. And he remembered the humans. They had shown him a new way, a path where life mattered, where courage meant protecting, not just fighting. That lesson had never left him. It had shaped him. One afternoon, while exploring near the edge of the ship, Eli heard a strange noise. It was distant but familiar, Another predator, larger than him, moving in the darkness outside. His body tensed, instincts firing, but he did not move blindly. He remembered the humans. He remembered their calm, their care, their courage. He looked around. The cub was nearby, watching. Eli knew he had to act wisely. He pressed his body low, moving silently toward the source of the sound. The predator stopped as soon as it sensed him. Eli growled loud and deep, a warning. The predator circled, unsure. Eli held his ground, standing firm. He had strength now, not just in body, but in mind and courage. He would not flee. He would not allow harm to reach those he cared for. The predator finally retreated. Eli lowered his head, muscles relaxing. He looked at the cub, who had watched everything silently. The cub pressed against him, trusting him completely. Eli felt a deep satisfaction. Protecting life was more rewarding than any hunt, more powerful than any victory in battle. That night the cub slept peacefully, curled near Eli. The ship's lights dimmed, casting soft shadows across the room. Eli gazed at the stars outside, remembering all he had survived. He thought of Torger V, of the pack, of the gray planet, of the humans who had changed his life. For the first time he felt a complete sense of purpose. Ava knelt beside him. "You've changed, Eli," she said softly. "You are no longer the cub who was left behind. You are strong, wise, and protective. And you have learned what humans have always known. Life is worth saving." Eli pressed his head against her hand, feeling the truth in her words. Days turned into weeks. Eli and the cub explored the new planet's surface under the careful guidance of the humans. Eli taught the cub how to climb safely, how to observe predators from a distance, and how to find food. The cub grew strong, confident, and curious. Eli felt proud, but he also felt a quiet humility. He had learned these lessons from humans. He was passing them forward. One morning, Eli stood at the edge of a cliff overlooking the planet's oceans. The sun rose, casting gold and pink across the water. The cub padded beside him, eyes wide with awe. Eli nudged the cub gently. They watched in silence. Life was vast, full of challenges and beauty. Eli realized that he had been given a second chance. The humans had saved him once. Now he was helping another life thrive. Ava and Ryan joined them. "You two have learned a lot," Ava said, smiling. "We are proud of you, Eli. And you, little one, are lucky to have him." The cub nudged Eli again, nuzzling him. Eli pressed his nose to the cub's, acknowledging the bond between them. The humans prepared to move on, to explore other worlds and continue their mission. Eli watched them, understanding that they had shown him a lesson that went beyond survival. Humans were strong not because they were the fiercest or fastest, but because they valued life, protected the weak, and chose care over cruelty. As the ship lifted off the planet, Eli stood near the cub, gazing at the fading landscape below. He felt ready to face whatever challenges came next. The universe was vast, dangerous, and full of unknowns, but he had learned how to survive, how to protect, and how to care. That knowledge was more valuable than any strength of tooth or claw. The cub looked up at him, eyes filled with trust. Eli pressed his head against the cub's, sharing warmth. Together, they were no longer alone. Together, they carried the lessons of humans into the future. Eli remembered his old pack, how they had left him to die. He did not feel anger now. He understood that he had learned something greater. He had learned that true strength was not domination, not cruelty, not survival at any cost. True strength was protection, care, and courage. The ship sailed through the stars, carrying life, hope, and lessons learned. Eli lay down near the cub, watching the endless sky. The humans moved around the ship, calm, strong, and attentive. Eli realized that he had become part of something larger, a community, a family, a force for life. As night fell, Eli gazed at the stars, thinking of Torger V, the gray planet, and the humans who had changed his life. He understood now what they had shown him, that life is precious, that strength is measured by protection, and that no one should ever be abandoned. He pressed his head against the cubs again, closing his eyes. For the first time, he felt completely safe. For the first time, he felt truly alive. The cubs slept beside him, breathing softly, trusting him completely. Eli felt the warmth of purpose in his chest. He was no longer just a survivor. He was a protector, a teacher, and a being shaped by the greatest lesson of all. Humans do not abandon life, and through that, life can thrive. Eli's journey had begun with pain, fear, and betrayal. It had grown into hope, courage, and care. And as the stars stretched endlessly before him, he knew one thing clearly. He would never forget what humans had taught him, and he would carry that lesson into every moment of his life. The universe was wide and full of danger, but Eli no longer feared it. He had strength, not just of body but of heart, and with that he knew he could face anything, protect anyone, and survive not just for himself, but for all those who could not survive alone. The young cub stirred beside him, eyes opening. Eli nudged it gently. Together they looked at the stars, ready to face the future.